Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. We're good.
Okay. So it is 6:02, so I will call the meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda is going into executive session to convene open session and recess into executive session pursuant RIGL 42464 for the discussion of item 1, any discussions of job performance, character, or physical or mental health of a person or persons, provided that such person or persons affected shall have been notified in advance in writing and advised that they may require that the decision may be held in open meeting pursuant to RIGL 42465A1, certified employee A and certified employee B, and item 2, sessions pertaining to the potential litigation/legal advice and collective bargaining pursuant to RIGL 42465A2, NEA NK negotiations. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Okay, so moved by Mr. Case and seconded by Ms. Lima. And so we will go into executive session. Thank you. Oh, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So we'll reconvene into open session. We recessed from executive session and we'll be returning to it later. And so let's start with item B, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Roll call.
Erin Earl.
Here.
Robert Case.
Here.
Jennifer Hoskins.
Here.
Jennifer Lima.
Here.
Thomas Bryady.
Here.
Christine LaPierre. Gabriel Anthony.
Okay, thank you. And then next up on the agenda is citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens signed up?
None.
Okay, thank you. Next item, superintendent's report.
No report, no.
Thank you. And then, and we also did not have any updates on the calendar as well, so we'll go into routine items for item A, and we will be pausing on that until after we finish our executive session, so we'll come back and do that at the end of the meeting. And so we'll move on to the consent agenda, and so does anyone want to exempt anything from the consent agenda?
C2.
Okay, so C2, any others? Okay, so with the removal of C2, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Mr. Case. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we'll go second. Ms. Hoskins. So all those in favor of approving the consent agenda with C2 removed, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries unanimously. And then we'll go back to C2. So can I get a motion to approve C2?
So moved.
Okay, motion for Mr. Case. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second for Ms. Lima. Discussion?
I just wanted some clarity from Madam Chair or Andrew. If we had talked about before the meeting minutes not including a lot of extraneous information, and I feel like these minutes absolutely include like long statements from on different points, and that we had talked about Robert's Rules of Order 48.2 where that unless it was really pertaining to the motion itself, it shouldn't be included. So I feel like there are long statements in the minutes. And I just want to clarify, is this an exception? Is this how we're going to make meeting minutes, that every time we have a big discussion about it, that it's going to be included in the minutes? Because it's pretty clear from my interpretation of the rules that because it's being recorded, that those don't belong in the minutes.
Yeah, sure. I think it's a valid point. And so we can definitely go back and ask the clerk to go through and update the minutes based on what the policy is. And they can be very brief. I think it's pretty specific about what should be included and what shouldn't.
I just feel like they're really long, and it was a really not a long meeting, and if we continue to do that.
Yeah.
we'll
No, it's
have
a
lot of
valid,
items.
it's a very valid point. Any other discussions regarding the minutes? And appreciate so much the clerk's effort on the reports, but I do agree.
Can I just
Yeah.
ask for clarification what you're asking? So statements that were read by various
Don't
members,
need to be in the minutes.
I can just keep it as it was in the past and just say discussion ensued where the people can refer back to the video?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate. And again, I'm happy to work with you and the superintendent on clarifying the policy. So,
Perfect.
Thank you.
all right. So we will other discussion regarding the question, and then again, if we as a committee want to change the actual policy that regards the minutes, that would be something that any member of the school committee could bring up to our now formed policy subcommittee, and we can look at that policy if we did want more things included, et cetera. But as it is written now, I do think you have a point.
Should I withdraw the motion and motion to table?
I'd like to make an observation.
Yep.
I understand what Ms. Hoskins is saying, and I actually voted with her when this previously came up. But in reviewing the minutes today, I noticed that there was a statement. Well, there was an agenda item, as I think you know, Erin, about the town council's comments. I felt that it was so benign that it would have been hard to understand what exactly that was about, so I asked for my comments to be added, and Ms. Palazzo did that earlier today. Didn't occur to me that that might run afoul of what you were talking about here. I'm going to go along with what you're saying here, but I just think if we're going to do that in the future, it's probably a good idea to have a little more clarity in terms of the agenda item that's out there. The statement, town council's comments or discussion of it doesn't really give much of a heads up to members of the community who might be looking at this.
Yeah, very valid. And that one,
I do agree it's valid, and my thing is these meetings are all recorded and people watch them, so.
Yep.
I understand.
okay, so I think and I completely understand and respect that position as well. And so I think there's a couple different things. Minutes are very official, like documentation of this, and of course get posted different things. As far as getting information out to the community, et cetera, I definitely think that's something we can talk about in the future, because there might be things shared in this meeting that we want to get out, but the minutes might not be the most appropriate place to do so. But also I hear you on the part about clarity as far as what we list as agenda topics, because that's very important as well. And so a couple different things in this, but as far as the motion that's on the table, which yes, Mr. Casey will have you probably withdraw for the quickness, we can absolutely go back and have these ones go back and align with our policy, and then we can have further conversations regarding a couple of the different topics that came up. So other discussion before?
I think to be consistent, in the meeting before, Ms. Apollo's statement was included with no comment regarding those, so I think that should probably be pulled out as well.
I think we've already approved those.
I'll check on
We'll have to check to see if they've been approved or not. I'm not sure. A number of them were tabled and
Yeah.
filed as draft.
Yeah, so we'll go back and check and
I'm
make sure
just
that we're
saying,
being
if
consistent.
we're gonna do it,
absolutely.
it should be
I agree.
consistent.
Yep, nope, totally agree. So if we accidentally made an error, we'll figure out legally what we can do to fix it, et cetera, so that we're making sure we're being consistent. And again, it's our policy, so if we want to, charge the policy committee for looking at that, et cetera, we can do that in the future. But I do agree that right now we want to follow what was set forth to us as far as what our minutes should and should not include, as it's very specific. So, Mr. Case, if you don't mind.
I will withdraw the motion and make a motion to table these minutes until the next
Okay,
meeting.
so we have withdraw of the previous motion, and then we have a new motion to table these so that we have the clerk can go back. So we have a motion for Mr. Case, a second for Ms. Lima. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries unanimously, and thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so we'll now move on to unfinished business, and the first item on here is the superintendent search. And so I just have a couple quick updates on this, which is very encouraging and exciting news. And so after the meeting, and we don't have any action to do this, so I guess because it is under business, we'll do a motion. So can I have a motion to discuss the superintendent search?
So
Okay,
Second.
motion from Ms. Hoskins, second from Ms. Lima. And then I'll start the discussion, and then if folks have questions or comments. So two quick updates on this. One is that we circled back with the superintendent search group that is doing the search for us and let them know that there was no additional language changes to the posting and the letter as presented at the previous two meetings. And so they can move forward with that. And so the gentleman that I spoke with today said that they will move forward and update the dates that are in the posting and get that posted in the next day or two. And so we'll make sure that everyone is aware once that is posted. And that is great news because it's going to allow us to continue on our timeline with the hopes of having a permanent superintendent in place at the beginning of the fiscal year. And the second update I have in that area is that we did reach out to all the previous committee members that were involved in the past search, and we heard back from all of them regarding their interest to be on the committee. The majority said yes. Two had some just quick questions and stipulations that they needed clarification on, which we will provide. And then there are two administrative vacancies that I'll talk to the superintendent about who should fill those roles, as we have had some vacancies since the last search. And I'm not sure exactly if the committee had stated specific roles or if it was just at the administrative discretion. So we'll check in on that and should have that committee solidified before NASDAQ comes. They'll be coming to our our second meeting in February to give the committee updates and kind of go through the timeline and the process and answer questions regarding the search, et cetera. So we will be on schedule for that as far as the timeline that had been presented to you all, as well as an opportunity for you all to talk directly with them about concerns, questions, et cetera at our next meeting. Any further discussion on this one? Okay, hearing none. don't need any action on this, so we will move forward, and very excited about that. And as I said, we'll be sure to share the search so that it can be widely distributed, in addition to NESDEC's, reach, et cetera. So the next item on the agenda is the school committee meeting calendar. And so we needed to kind of circle back on this one as far as where we're at. And so can I get a motion to open up discussion or actually probably we need action on this one. Yep.
So moved.
Okay, so we have a motion from Ms. Lima regarding the calendar. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second from Mr. Bridey, and then we'll open it up for discussion. And so we need to look at this again in coordination with the town council's calendar and making sure that we're in compliance with the things that we need to do for the budget. And so any information or discussion there? Say it again.
I can't load it right now, so.
Did the administration talk with the town about any changes to their deadline dates?
That was what Ralph sent. So we did receive correspondence from the town manager regarding their budget calendar changes, and so we can run through that and then take a look at ours.
Latest calendar that I have, February 27th, we'll present the budget to the school committee. And then the budget is due to the town manager on February 28th. Then school committee will meet on March 8th to review the budget, make any adjustments that you choose to make.
Did you
And
mean
then
March
March
9th, Dr. Pilata?
Excuse me?
Did you mean
March
March the 9th?
9th,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And March 15th, school committee will meet to vote on the budget.
My concern is that the town manager is supposed to submit the budget to the town council on March 13th, and we won't have voted on our budget by then.
Yep, so
What's the date you have, March 13th to the?
I have the 15th. I'm hearing this.
I have the
No.
15th.
I haven't seen this.
Yeah. So Ralph had sent this over, and so what I was looking at from them is, and there's a lot of moving targets, which is why we're talking about this, so it's fine that we're not completely solidified on this. We want to work through and make sure we figure out what makes most sense as far as the calendars, as we know that there's a little bit of a time crunch, and then also just conflicting calendars as far as we're moving forward. So I'm purposely talking it through tonight to try to make sure we're all on the same page, and also if we need to communicate anything to the town, being able to do so. And so what the town manager had sent over was just looking to see if there were any deadlines before this. So we had the March 13th, Jen, you are correct that what he sent over most recently says submission to town manager proposed budget to town council, and so that would go on the 13th to them.
Right, I mean technically according to the town's budget, we're supposed to submit our budget to the manager on the 27th. But the manager's deadline to submit to the town council is the 13th.
Yep. And so,
Yeah, I did speak to him about that, about the 27th. I told him that we would be in a position to give him the bottom line projected, and then the details will come when we make the presentation to the town council. I think what he's concerned about now is the bottom line, to build into his budget projected, because that could change on our end. If the numbers change from RIDE to us, I mean, we're using the ride numbers that we have now, but that's subject to change sometime in March, or if the General Assembly adds or deletes money, then we have to make those adjustments, so he understands that.
My
Yeah.
concern about giving a preliminary budget to the town without us having even reviewed it is, I don't want the town to see a number and decide that that's the number that we've provided them, even with the assumption that it's preliminary.
It's just a projected number.
And I understand that, and you understand that, but I just would be concerned that.
I'll let him know that. That's subject to change.
Yeah, could we do maybe a compromise there? Because I also understand that the town's trying to stay on their schedule as well. Maybe we could send over like an official correspondence just regarding like what we're submitting on the 27th and confirming, you know, that the conversation, kind of officially stating the conversation, and then also saying, you know, that this is subject to change, not only because of the reasons that you mentioned, but also because the school committee might have additions, changes, et cetera, that we would want to put in. And so, you know, to keep that moving, that number is as valid as it could be, but that there could be further things. Could we send over just something to have it in writing? That'd be, I think, helpful.
Sure.
Does that sound like
Yeah, just because they will be getting it the same day we will, and I think without us even having have looked at it, I'm uncomfortable with them being given a number even preliminarily, you know, without that formalized caveat that it's preliminary.
We will have a projected number, a percent increase by Friday, this Friday. So that's what I will communicate to him and let him know that it's a projected number,
When can we get the munis
subject to
reports?
change.
Okay. Jenny, did you have a question?
Well, I guess it's not about the calendar, I'll wait till the budget.
All right, awesome, thank you.
So then I guess my next question would be, is there any flexibility from the town insofar as the date that we provide our proposed budget to them?
I'm sorry, say that again.
So I think the question is, like the town wants it, town manager would like it on the 27th, but he doesn't need to present it to the town council until the 13th in theory. And so I think what Jen is asking, correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, is there an opportunity to request that it not go to him on the 27th, but maybe a few days later to allow the school committee to see it before he gets that number, I think is the question.
Right, because really, I think, like, the town council has their budget work session set up for the 20th. I think they actually have a little wiggle room according to the statute, so if there was any way for us to be able to have some time to review it on our end before we have to give it to them, that would be great.
That's
Yes,
something
we
we're
can do
willing
that, sure.
to ask.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on the calendar part of it?
I may be able to send that to you this weekend, this Friday. So you have a general concept of what we're looking at with the budget.
That would be great, but also I think Jen's asking if
Yeah.
you can ask Ralph
Sure.
to
Extend
adjust that date by
Yeah.
a couple days at least, so that we're not seeing it the same day they're they're not going to receive it before we talk about it
Right.
officially.
No
Right.
problem.
Okay, and then you can communicate back kind of that conversation. That'd be great. Any other discussion regarding our calendar as set forward at this point?
So then, right now, we have our date set for the 27th is when we officially receive the budget. The 9th is when we hold a budget workshop, and the 15th would be when we would formally vote on it. How do we want to handle those? And with the 13th being the deadline that that the town is supposed to be receiving it. Do we want to change those now? Do we want to wait till we hear back from the town?
I think it makes sense to wait until we hear back from the town and know what their position is before we try to make a decision on that.
I also had a question about the 15th.
Yep. Okay, let's do one at a time. So what I'm hearing is, Jen, you're saying if we have the 27th, obviously, is our school committee meeting. We'll be receiving information on that date. Then the next date on our calendar is the March 9th, which is when we're supposed to have the workshop. And then in between that, on the 13th, we have that's when the town manager is supposed to go in front of the town council. And you're concerned that between the workshop and the 15th, like, that information is not going to be Correct, for him to present on the 13th.
Correct, if he
Yep.
presents on the 13th, he will be presenting a budget that we haven't approved.
Yep, and so your question is, should we move our 15th vote prior to the 13th? is what I'm
Really, my
hearing.
question is can he move his 13th date past the 15th?
Yeah.
That's my real question.
Yeah, and so that would equal the town council potentially holding a special meeting or or doing it at their next meeting,
Right.
which is on the 20th.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be one or the other. We're gonna have to change our date, or we're gonna have to ask them to change ours, because the way
Oh,
it stands
yeah.
now.
You'd have to move your workshop date up. Instead of the 9th, it's gotta be before the 9th. If you're gonna get it on the 3rd, on the 27th, you're gonna get it. That's a Monday. You could schedule a meeting the following week, which is March 1, 2, or 3, to
That's
have
the
your
same.
workshop. And then you can certainly go to the 6th or the 7th for your workshop. And if you're making any adjustments, then we would need time to make any adjustments on that budget for the 8th, 9th, and 10th, and then get it to the town council for the 13th. You need to vote on it before he goes to the town council.
Yeah, or we need to request that it doesn't go to the town council on the 15th.
Yeah, he's probably not gonna have an extension with the town council, so he's gonna stay with that date. So we need to move up.
So I guess my next question would be, if you're saying there's gonna be, is it possible to move the date of the 27th up at all? I guess we already went through all of next week though, and that, I mean,
I think
That's how we ended
the
up
part,
with the
yeah, and the part that
27th,
we're
yeah.
here, yeah, and that's where we're, we want to make sure that we're giving the
Yeah.
central administration enough time to work through and present a really strong, proposal to us, but then also on the other side, it's very, very tight, and so, I know there were some conversations, casual conversations regarding this, but I don't think we've had any official, request as far as this goes, and I do know that the town council president has said that he, would be supportive of things, because he knows kind of how we got here. It wasn't just because folks weren't doing things with transition, et cetera, but I don't know how much flexibility they have.
So, you asked about moving up to 27. Yes, because again, that's gonna be a projected number. That number's gonna change. So on Monday the 20th is a holiday, and Tuesday a workday for
Staff.
Staff, okay.
Yeah.
So you could meet on the 23rd. Instead of the 27th.
I won't be here.
Well, we have quorum. Other thoughts on the calendar in correspondence with what we were trying to achieve?
And that gives you 2 weeks, or at least a week, to review the budget.
If I may,
Please, anyone.
having worked with our controller and our finance people who are doing this, they're at the point right now where they have big numbers. UCOA, however, requires us to take a big number and put it sometimes into 14 to 30 different departments. That's the work that they're working through now, is making sure, one, they didn't miss anything, and two, we're doing those allocations. So I know that they were just working here while we were in executive session, so they're working very hard on it. They're feeling a lot of pressure, and I think they're comfortable with the 27th to be able to give you a broken down budget. I think if we start going anything prior to that, we run into possibly not having allocations complete. That would be my concern.
Yep.
You would know supplies are X, but you may not know supplies for ELA at a specific school are
Mhm.
allocated out. So I just would offer that information.
Yeah, and so as far as the workshop, so we have the workshop on the 9th, correct?
So I would recommend,
You can
barring
move that.
any extension from the town council, that we schedule the workshop for the 2nd and schedule the vote for the 9th.
So we meet on the 27th, the 2nd, and the 9th.
Yeah.
I'd rather that than the 27th, the 9th, and the 15th.
Yeah, but I just also want to think about what happens between the workshop and then the work that, and then the work that has to happen after that. I can imagine
What
that
about the
it's not
7th
instantaneous,
and the
like we need to give the folks doing it some time, right, to work through that?
So the 2nd to the 9th gives us actually more time than the 9th to the 15th. So you receive it on the 27th, we meet on the 2nd, you make any changes, we provide it back on the 9th with those changes for a final vote. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
But my ask would be that we don't see it for the first time on the 27th. I'm hoping, like, maybe we see it that Friday.
I know our controller is working weekends on this, so we.
Even if at 4 o'clock on Saturday
I was gonna say,
afternoon,
we might be able to get you like a Friday version that may not have all
Yep.
allocations complete, but then the version you actually get delivered on the Monday may have
Yep.
that work broken out.
Yeah.
I mean, our controllers are working very
Yeah.
hard.
No, and I know
We're
they are,
very
yeah.
grateful for their work. I'm
Just that
happy
gives us
to-
time to turn it, for us to digest it between Monday and Thursday.
Yeah, I'm happy to send an official correspondence to the town council president as well, just expressing concern about that date and seeing if they have any flexibility there. You know, I don't want to set a trickle effect happening, but I'm happy to at least officially correspond that, and then we can go from there. But I do think we should also think about alternatives as well. But I'm happy to send that, because I'm hearing you say that part of it as well. So,
So you wanna meet on the 2nd?
So I mean, technically, we have enough time, if we wait till the 27th to schedule a meeting for the 2nd, but should we plan that now and cancel it if we have to?
we're also able to call a meeting not
That's true,
on,
yeah.
we don't have to do it the second,
Yep.
and so understanding the assignment, I think, you know, we can send a correspondence to the town manager as well as the town council, and then if need be, we can do a call for a vote for a special meeting,
Yep.
et cetera, or changing the calendar like that, I believe, via email.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't have to make that decision today, I prefer not to change it and then change it
Yeah.
again, but I would definitely, as humans, maybe hold those dates, although I'm not available either, so we'll have to figure that piece out on
And I'm not
Thursdays.
available the 15th, so.
Yep, we knew that, yep.
Miss Sapala has her hand raised.
Yes, Ms. Paul, would you like to go? Absolutely, come on over to the microphone.
Last time I was here, I said things I shouldn't have. Okay. All right. So,
Is that mic on?
It is, you won't hear it.
Okay.
It's for the
Nope,
stream.
that's fine.
so I do agree with 27, 2, and 9. The biggest work that the controllers have to do is after your workshop on the 2nd, because that's when they have to do the changes. So when you vote on the 9th, you'll have that bottom line figure that Dr. Pilata can truly give to the town council. But I just want to also caution, we need a little time then. They also need a few days to get all the detail in. So I think that would be hopefully acceptable to the town. You've got the real number that you voted on. It's delivered to the town manager, and then we have a few more days to get all the detail. I just want you to understand that. It isn't just this automatic turnover. But between the 2 and the 9th, they do a lot of work, and so that could work. So is that the vision you had when you suggested the 9th, Ms. Lima? Because there'll be a figure to give to the town manager, but maybe not all the worksheets to go with it. And if Dr. Pilata could get the town manager to agree to that, I think that would be very good.
Yeah, because just, I mean, the way it stands now, they need the number on the 13th, and we're not meeting to approve until the 15th, and that just won't work. I mean, the other option, if Thursdays are no good, is nobody wants to
Friday.
meet on the Friday, but we could do the 3rd and the 10th.
Agreed.
But I already bought my Greece tickets, so if we could meet at 5 on the 3rd, that would be swell.
I can do anything.
So you wanna do the 2nd and the 9th?
We can't do the second one.
cannot.
but Jen's saying the third or the 10th.
On
But we
Friday-
don't-
Saturday night?
The challenge with the 10th
Yeah,
is that it's then due on the 13th.
Right.
Right.
yeah,
That's the Monday.
yeah.
So if there's any adjustments on the
8th.
10th, they're not gonna have time to make the adjustments.
Was there an issue with the 8th?
We have a negotiation meeting from 4 to 6, but then we could do something after that.
I cannot meet on Wednesdays. I will not be here on a Wednesday.
Yep.
I cannot do Wednesdays.
Okay, so I think in the interest of time, as I said, we can adjust the calendar. And so first steps, it sounds like, is corresponding with the town. And so we'll do that. One, official correspondence of what they can expect to receive, and then also a request to the town council president regarding the date, that 13th date, to see if there's any flexibility there. And then barring none, then we'll have the clerk send out something to figure out which dates we're able to meet to make sure that we are voting on something before the 13th, not after the 13th. Correct? Okay. Any other discussion about the calendar?
So you're gonna do the communications or the?
I'll do the one to the town council president regarding that date. If you can do the one to the town manager regarding,
How about if you just CC Ralph?
yeah, we can do both. Yeah, we'll combine the messages and we'll send it together. Yeah, we'll send one correspondence to the two humans. Perfect. Everyone, any other discussion there? And I don't believe, since we're not making, unless somebody wants to make a motion for official action, at this point, we don't need to do anything on that item. Right. Okay, let's move on to item C, 2022-2023 budget. Do we have a motion to discuss?
So moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, motion from Ms. Lima, second from Mr. Bridey. Any discussion regarding this item?
22, 23, as the report.
I know that they're working on putting it together.
Jenny, was your question in regards to this one?
Yeah, just wondering when we can get the reports.
Can't hear you, Jen.
Just wondering when we can get the reports.
Okay.
I believe they're working on they're working on them this week. It's the balance between having appointments with principals and staff members, department heads who are coming over, balancing it out with this.
Okay, so just to clarify, we're looking for the
The
munis reports.
For the year-to-date
The
stuff.
year-to-date,
year-to-date.
correct?
Yep.
For the
Year-to-date.
year-to-date, for the year-to-date and the final from last year.
Have we received are you talking about the audit?
Well, we don't need the audit. I mean, you have an unofficial draft. I mean, it's still complete.
Okay.
Yep, so I think, and this came up at the last meeting too, and so I think what Ms. Hoskins is looking for is some information about the final last year, and we know part of that was, part of the delay on that was the audit, but I think the committee was saying that it might be helpful to have some of those information going into budget season, correct?
Correct.
And so that would include the finals last year, even if they aren't final finals, because of the audit of the ESSER funds, I believe is what the part of that assessment is. Or not audit, but
I was
believe.
saying, and this is operating, our general budget.
Yes.
If there was a report that had them both on one, would that be acceptable, helpful? If I had this year's year-to-date with last year's actuals?
Or if we could get them, it doesn't matter.
I'm just trying to think of reports I've seen in the past.
We've gotten them separate in the
You've got them
past.
separate, okay.
And obviously there's competing priorities right now, and so if there's, I think that request is helpful, but also please communicate, if we need to change something. But we usually would get that a little bit earlier than this, correct? Is that?
Months ago.
Yep, okay. Okay, so anything else on 2022, 2023? Okay, hearing no other discussion, we'll move on to item D, which is 2023, 2024. Anyone have discussion items on this one? Hearing no, we won't need a motion, we can just move beyond it. Okay, and then item C, CIP, existing bond, future bond.
I have no update at this time.
Okay, anyone want to make a motion to have discussion regarding that one? Okay, so we have a motion from Ms. Lima for discussion for CIP existing bond, future bond. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, second from Mr. Bridie. Discussion regarding this? Ms. Lima, you want to start?
Do we have the updates on it?
So I have the updated report from them. I have not looked at them.
Okay,
I've not had a chance to look at them yet.
okay. What do
So-
you need to look at it
So
for?
the next thing that happens is we look at them with the architect. We determine, we prioritize them based off of, so we've got the prioritization from RIDE, using their, priorities, and now we have to do a district priority.
So the one that you gave us before, that was,
That was the one from 5 years ago.
okay.
So this will be, so what I have in my possession now is the raw data from the sheets that says, the roof at school X has Y number of years remaining, and the estimated cost in the year for it to be replaced is $5 million.
Okay.
We haven't looked at now what they looked at versus what our facilities directors year to date of how much he spent on leaks in that building. They may not, we may say, well, the experts are saying it's 5 years. We think that the year that they have at 3 years may actually have the 5 years, and this one should go first.
Okay,
So we have not done that analysis yet.
okay.
Now, we have our priorities on there. Is our softball field on there for the high school?
I have not looked at it.
Okay.
I have not. I saw that I received it for each school, but I have not looked in depth at them.
No, and that's fine. Again, just trying to work through, what the committee needs to move forward on, what they need to do, and then obviously there's a lot of priorities on that side as well. Is there a timeline expectation, from you all as what you would like to see as far as prioritization, or what we need as far as making decisions for, I believe, what you all have seen in the past, which is probably the raw data and then whatnot, as far as the discussions and different things that we're doing?
I'm not sure you've ever seen the raw data as much
Yeah,
as
no,
the actual
yeah.
plan.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because
So,
it's
but the
this
plan
data.
happened 5 years ago, right? So nobody that was on the school committee right now was there when this happened, and so it's a statement, right?
We just
Were
get
you-
like an
were you on?
update every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Just get updates.
yeah, so just an update as far as,
So I guess my biggest question is like, so that's what we've been using all along is like this. So I guess I'm curious how far, like, is it?
So our current plan is good until end of June.
Okay.
So now is the time when and this is going to go. This ends up getting tied into a couple agenda items from now, which is the stage 1 application.
That's kind of where I'm going.
Yeah, this is
Okay,
all.
yep.
So we could look at that list and say, not only do we want to do a middle school, we want to do these items off of that list. That's what comes next once stage 1. This was a top priority because Wednesday's the deadline. Mixing in there
Yep.
the budget,
Mhm.
and that's why I have not gotten
Mhm.
to the detail
Okay.
on the
All right.
plan.
so as far as the timeline, like, we're fine.
Yeah.
And it's just good to know, that we've received it, and then kind of what the next steps are. And then, as far as like the different priorities, et cetera, and we might talk about this with stage 1, if there are things that need to be put into place as far as supports, et cetera, that would be helpful in being able to get multiple time-sensitive priorities moving forward, please let the school committee know kind of what's within our control. Because I know that there is a lot going on and a lot of different things that we're trying to do at once. So, any other discussion on this item? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to, and thank you, Mr. Waterman, for that explanation. I really appreciate it. Moving on to new business. My watch wants me to stand up. The first item on the agenda is the Wickford Middle School principal contract, and so can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
My goodness, motion from Ms. Atkinson, second from Mr. Bridie. Discussion on this, and we'll go first to Frank to present the person. And
Yeah, I'm
and again,
happy to report to you that screening team interviewed candidates. There were final interviews with 3 finalists, and the selection was to appoint Mr. David Flanagan, who has over 25 years as an educator, the former assistant principal at Bishop Hendricken. He served on a RIDE oversight committee for budget review. He's been an adjunct professor at Providence College. He's also was a teacher. He's currently principal of a Catholic school from pre-K to 8, and he also is an attorney, a licensed attorney. So I'm happy to recommend to you that you consider the appointment of Mr. David Flanagan as the principal of Wickford Middle School.
Thank you. And just a reminder to the committee, we are only approving the contract as the decision about the who most certainly lies with the superintendent. And thank you so much for the committee for working through the applicant pool. And so any discussion regarding the contract, questions or clarifications needed?
Okay, Mr. Flanagan will begin on March 6th. I informed the faculty today I went over there and informed them that Mr. Flanagan will begin on March 6th. I gave them the same information that I just gave you. There were no questions by the faculty. The only request was if Mr. Flanagan can go over to Wickford Middle School prior to March 6th to do a walk around with Mr. Lally and meet the faculty.
Any other questions regarding the contract? I just had one clarifying one. If we don't have the data, it's fine. As far as the base salary, I assume that it is similar or in conjunction with the other middle school principals in the district?
Yes,
Any other discussion?
and it's the budgeted amount.
Perfect.
I
Thank you.
just want to say congratulations, and Wickford Middle School is happy to have you. I have a child still there, and we're on our third principal. So Mr. Lally moved up at first into administration, and then Ms. Palladino took his place. So it'll be nice to have someone at the helm again.
And then I'm not sure if before we close discussion. Does he want to speak or no? No worries, but
You're welcome to say a few words, Mr. Flanagan.
if you'd like, no pressure. But if you do, you got to go to the mic. That's Kathy.
Briefly, just thank you very much. I'm looking forward to joining North Kingstown and Wickford Middle, and I'm looking forward to March 6th very much. And I will absolutely be there before March 6th. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Lally said he will be in contact with you to set that up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I just want to make a couple of quick comments. It's been 10 years, but my acquaintance with Mr. Flanagan involved watching our children playing ice hockey together at Bayview Academy years ago. He was a very nice man, and I remember enjoying watching games with him in the stands, and I texted my daughter, who is a contemporary of his daughter, to let her know Mr. Flanagan is here, and she said, "Oh, I remember how nice he was." I think we're very fortunate to have you in this community. I know you also worked at Hendricken, and you had some encounters with my son, so I have no doubts about your qualities as an educator. I didn't know you were a lawyer. My sincere condolences to you. Notwithstanding that, I'm sure that you're very well qualified for this, and we're really lucky to have you. Thank you.
Any other discussions regarding the contract? If not, we'll call the question. Okay. So hearing none, all those in favor of approving the contract, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. And welcome to North Kingstown. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Ms. Fowler, for the search.
You're welcome.
Oh, yes.
Okay, moving on to item
Much over too.
under new business, item B, which is the RIDE Stage 1 application. Can we get a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion for Mr. Case and a second for Ms. Hoskins. Discussion, and we'll start with Mr. Waterman kind of to walk through, if you don't mind, and then if we have any questions.
So, based on the advice of the Chief Operating Officer at RIDE, who oversees the SBA, we took components of our Stage 1 submission from last year, which was a lot of the cover letters. We updated them. I was just notified of a possible typo, so there may be one and we had about 4 sets of eyes, but I believe the final tally was about 500 pages, so I apologize for missing that. We were able to incorporate some additional items that we didn't have last year, such as our educational facility master plan, into the stage 1 application and do a more complete application than what we had last year. And this document represents that. Following your approval this evening, I will secure the necessary signatures, and that will be sent over on Wednesday, which is the submission date. Again, it can be submitted on February 15th and September 15th.
Thank you. Other discussion regarding the stage 1 submission presented in front of you?
Can you do me like a building application for dummies question here? So I went through all of this, and so where do we go from here? Like, what's the next step?
So the next step is to get this sent over, completed on Wednesday. That following this, then it will be the building committee will need to get together and come up with a recommendation for what the school committee should be approving. There'll be town council involvement that will be needed as far as going out and requesting from the legislation a bond.
So I remember at that meeting with the RIDE person, he was wonderful, lots of deadlines, so I guess I have 2 questions. When is the building subcommittee meeting?
We do not have one planned. It's pending this approval. There's a few other items I have to get together so that I can have a more complete meeting. For example, we've requested from other communities who have recently done an RFP or RFQ? RFQ, right? RFQ for architectural services, so that hopefully we don't have to call a number of meetings, we can conduct a more thorough. So I've received a couple of those. I haven't received like one that we can really duplicate yet, but I know our controller has reached out to her RIASBO colleagues, and I received one on Friday, one over the weekend, so I'm hoping in the next day or 2 I might get a couple more.
Okay.
And just to follow up on that, in terms of timelines, February 15th, Mike is right, is the timeline that we need to meet just to submit that. The next step will be to meet with the building committee and have them review the facilities plan that was put together. There are 3 options in that plan. The building committee will review those options, and at your behest, you can direct the building committee to give you the 3 options or give you 1 option. Then RIDE will meet with the Board of Education in May to get their approval. They'll submit the state's recommendations from all the different districts in May to the Board of Education. And then the legislature will have to approve it also. And then the town would have to prepare a bond for November to be voted on, and then meet the stage 2 timeline in September. So the next important step is the building committee to either present 1 or 3 recommendations to you.
So like,
And then the RFQ would have to go out to get a project manager, and then whatever voted on as a final project, that architect would put that plan together with all the details and the cost. And that would be the number that would be submitted to the town for a bond. So there's a lot of work that has to be done, but votes have to be taken to get that done. I'm going to assume, or maybe it's a wrong assumption, that you want 1 recommendation from the building committee or 3 recommendations.
Yeah, so that's something we have to talk about, and we can talk about right now in discussion. So that's a good question to pose. And then also the other thing that I'd like us to look at is the calendars. As you know, I know we have there's only probably 6 meetings that we're talking about before the legislative deadlines are. I believe that's that May-ish mark, right? And so, so just kind of thinking about timeline as far as what we want to make sure the building committee is doing, and then what will come here, just to give some guidance and some clarity as far as priorities. And so, when thinking about like our February 27th meeting, I don't think that's realistic. And I do believe we're going to have multiple priorities already on that agenda. So I would recommend thinking about or looking at those March meetings. And then obviously we have the budget kind of coinciding, but thinking about, you know, when, I know the building committee already has the facility master plan. They've had it at least since the last time you all met a couple of weeks ago. So thoughts on you being able to put together what you need for them, but then also a realistic turnaround to bring something forward, whether it be one or three options ranked or two options, you know, like, I don't know if I personally don't want to dictate what we have. You know, if there's one clear option and the building committee feels like that's the clear option, then I would present as such. If they think there's two viable options, present those two. I'd also defer to the two of you on what you think would be most useful for that conversation, and I'd also love to hear the community members' feedback on what would be helpful. So basically, what I heard Dr. Pilato say is that there's, in that facility master plan, which you all have a copy of, there's 3 different potential ways that we could go. And when we heard from Mario from the school building authority, they really were clear on, like, you want to pick a very clear direction, and especially with the bond and the timeline, I think that is the good choice, and that's a decision that the school committee needs to make at the advice of the building subcommittee. And so that's my thoughts, but I'd love to hear others on what would be useful and helpful as far as those pieces go.
That came through pretty strongly for me, that it was like, now's not the time, with the deadline that we have, to have a wonderful wish list. It was a decide what your priority is and go with that from the get-go, because otherwise you're going to miss the timing. So I would hope that the building subcommittee would be able to review the information that they have.
So I was hoping, we had met last week, and working backwards, I was hoping on that, possibly that March 15th meeting date, to be able to bring some additional information forward. Now, I know with tonight that's been a little juggled, so I may need to wait for us to land on a final, but I was thinking in the slightly, you know, in March, mid-March.
The second March meeting.
Yeah, that was what I was hoping.
So the way that would work is you would come forward, you would say the building subcommittee met, the recommendation is ABC, and we would say yay, nay, go with this, and then we would go off into the universe and start working on it?
Yeah, and that vote would trigger the RFQ
Okay,
for the specificity of what we want the architect to do.
okay.
And he's gonna need a lot of time to put that plan together for September.
Well, and before that, because of the bond, correct?
And he'll be going back and
Yep.
forth with Wright also to make sure he's meeting the requirements
So,
during that time period.
Which is why we've already requested sample RFQs, so that
Yeah.
when we come to you, it's more of a complete look. So this is the recommendation with that approval. This is the RFPQ that will be put out, and then our next steps will be, you know, there's a closing date built in there. We'll be asking for your approval of this architect's fees, or owner's project manager.
I guess my request would be, if you don't have those pieces, at least come to us with something, and then we could always schedule another meeting just to approve the RFQ or whatever,
Mhm.
like, instead of waiting until you have all those paperworks, like, to at least approve whatever the vision is, like, so that we've at least established, like, we want choice A, B, or C.
Mhm.
Last piece I would add to that is the compensation for the architect. There's 2 choices to that. That could either be paid for by the school district, and obviously that would have to come out of the undesignated account, or it would be paid by the town. So, however, that's reimbursable through housing aid. So the consideration is that if the bond passes, all the finances come through the town. You may want that to also come through the town, or you may want it to come through the school department. But the reimbursement, in any event, goes to the town. So you want to make sure that there's an agreement that, you know, if you take it out of surplus, you get that money back from the town. So just keep that in mind.
It's a good point.
noted,
Thank you.
Frank.
Yeah, it's a good one to remember,
Okay,
thank you.
so, and again, like, I want to work in I want to work in a realistic world. Like, I don't want to say we want it by this date and then have that be a stressful thing or a not feasible thing with competing priorities. But also, as I know you've heard me say this before, I think it's worth the push here because of the maximum possible reimbursement that we can get, which is really only on the table in this short time frame. Because I think the reality that we all know is no matter what option they come back with us to, this district needs to build a new building in the next 3-5 years, probably 5 years ago, and to miss out on this opportunity, I think would be, it might not be possible, but I think at least we should try. And so, as far as what I'm hearing you say is that you wanted to have the building subcommittee be able to, when they meet, kind of have the decision made as far as which option to go with, and then also it sounded like to me you were hoping to also present to them an RFQ. Would it make sense to tier those conversations and have the first conversation be, hey, building committee, what do you think? Then come to us at our first March meeting and present, hey, this is kind of what they're thinking, and then maybe either holding a building subcommittee one if you need further approval from them, or then coming back to us at the second March meeting with, hey, this is what we want to do for the RFQ, and this is what we need your approval on as far as the architect and the compensation, et cetera. Am I following
So
you
I'm
right?
also trying to be respectful of the building committee's
Yeah.
days and times as they are a volunteer
Yep.
group. So I am trying to run as efficient of a meeting
Yeah.
as possible. If I can have a little more time to see what, because if I get, we've had a number of schools just recently built. I've heard that I'm going to get something from East Providence, who's just built a high school in the midst of doing a middle school now. If I can get something that's very similar, we might be able to really quickly have that available for the building committee to look at as well.
Frank, thoughts?
Yeah, the last thing I would say is that the architect is important because he has to meet the requirements of the incentives, which is the additional percent that you would get in addition to your normal percent reimbursement.
So there's really not too much we can do until we have an architect on board, and so we don't want to necessarily slow that.
We don't want to hold that process.
We don't want to slow that down.
No, I was trying to do the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to slow it down either. I was saying, like, do you want to...
So, Frank, correct me if I'm wrong. We can't get the architect till we have the plan.
Yes.
So it's a
Yeah.
it's a hand in hand.
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to say, and I totally respect the volunteerness, but when there's millions of dollars on the table, it might be worth asking folks to convene for an extra hour. And so what I was thinking was, like, it might make sense for you all to meet, bring us the plan for our first March meeting. We say, cool, we like option A, go nuts, like, thank you. Then you go back to the building committee and say, they picked option A, here's the RFQ or whatever we need you, and I don't know if the building committee has to approve that piece of it. And then you would come back to us in the March meeting and we would approve that. That's what I was thinking as far as the trajectory, but
Yeah, normally the building committee takes a vote on a
Yep.
plan, and then the school committee takes a vote on it.
Yep.
And then the town council takes a vote on it.
yep.
And then we forward it.
When you say plan, do you mean like we want one
A
middle
pl-
school,
a
we want
plan.
3 elementary, like,
Yeah.
so it would say, building committee comes to us, we say, yep, that's a great idea, and then we go to the town, they say, yep, that's a great idea, and that's when the RFQ goes out?
Once the final votes are taken.
And the town has to vote on it before we put the RFQ out?
I think you could do them at
You
the
can do
same
it
time, pending,
simultaneously.
pending
Okay.
approval.
Because,
You just wouldn't award it.
yeah.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't award the.
And the town's just giving the okay for the plan, not for anything
Well,
other
and
than
being
that.
willing to
Put
to
up the money for the
ask for the
bond.
bond.
to ask for the bond. Yeah, that's where the town comes in.
Yeah, I
So-
would agree with Erin to expedite, at least like schedule the meeting for the building committee, and then if you have the additional information for the RFQ, then that's awesome, if not,
I'm a backwards planner. What is the first? I know we've
Yeah, no,
talked
it's
about.
okay.
I know we've talked about a lot of dates. What is the first date in March of our meeting?
We know we haven't quite picked one.
Right.
Do that
Right now
March
it's
9th.
March
Do that March 9th.
So not for a March 2nd or 3rd, but for a March 9th, I think that's doable. Yes,
Okay, so you think you can convene the building committee before then?
absolutely.
And
Yep, I
then,
will.
and then I'm also looking at the town council's one, because I also, if we're sending an email to Ralph and Greg, we can include, that in it as well in that correspondence. And so then we have we in theory would have a meeting, theirs meeting is the 13th, so they probably have a meeting on March 27th, the town council.
I thought somebody said the 20th as well. I'm not sure.
They have a budget workshop on the 20th.
Okay, maybe
But I
that's what
think,
heard.
I would assume if their meeting was on, Jen's not Googling it, but
Oh, no,
usually
I'm
you're
taking
Googling
that,
stuff
I'm
like
sorry.
that. No worries.
I'll Google it.
It looks like if the town manager's presenting their budget on the 13th, they meet every other Monday, so I would assume it'd be the 27th unless they have a calendar change that I'm not aware of. But I only have the budget calendar in front of me, I don't have the other one. So I know you said you'd like to work backwards, so maybe that would be like the goal is then, because that gives us maybe a month to work on the bond stuff, et cetera, if approved by those entities. Because I believe there's definitely a timeline on the other end is when legislation can get submitted for them.
We have a meeting on the 27th.
Yeah, so I was right.
Yep.
Okay. Other discussion regarding questions with the stage one?
No, I'm not sure if something was said tongue-in-cheek, but I know our focus with the Education Facility Master Plan was a lot on the middle school. Ms. Leamy, you said 3 elementary schools. Was that just tongue-in-cheek?
No, I said it because that
Okay.
was in the asset management plan, and that's why I wanna make sure, like, we
Okay.
get the plan, because there's 18 different versions of what we want floating out there, but not what has actually
I
been.
think that's one, I heard that as well when,
Yeah.
Okay.
the asset management chair, I think it's one of the different options.
Yeah.
Was there something built in there and they picked up on that? I don't think it's,
So you could do a middle school and an elementary school. You could do. I know there are other communities doing multiple
yeah.
elementary schools.
But there's 3 options in the facilities master plan, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And the facilities master plan doesn't discuss.
No,
In
we're
elementary.
not adding an option.
Okay, all right.
We
That's
are,
what I just
those,
wanted.
there are 3 options.
Okay,
No,
yeah.
and the only reason I think, Jen, not to put words in your mouth, you said that is because I think the asset management committee said that, but I don't think
Yeah,
that
I don't
that
know where
was.
they got that from.
Yeah, but it's the 3 options in this plan is
Okay,
we would
that's
like
what
you
I'm
all to look
focused
at.
on. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
and don't forget, the architect will expedite the process because the 3 plans are already spelled out. So he would
Yeah.
have to take that and coordinate it into a stage 2 document.
Any other discussion? I do have just 2 quick questions as the person that will be signing this. Any other discussion regarding this, questions, et cetera? And so I don't think we need to do an official vote, but I think, having you understand, ideally, I would request to the town council an agenda item on their 27th one, and then go backwards from there, and if for some reason you go back and look at the calendars and say, no, actually, that's definitely not it, just communicate that back to us,
Certainly.
and then we can go from there, because I also want to give them a heads up as they have different priorities and things on their calendars of when we might want to come forward to them. And I'll double check on my side what that last, kind of when we need to get that information to the folks up at the state, as far as just confirming that timeline, as I haven't gotten that. And then just the 2 quick questions I had about the typo that you had mentioned.
I see.
Was
it.
that,
Yes, that the one referencing the educational facility master plan
Yeah.
completed in June. That should read 2022.
yep, and then I wasn't sure if right underneath that, the 13 point S million, is that supposed to be a 5? So it says currently NOC.
Yeah, it was a $13.5 million bond, and that's an S, huh?
It looks like it to me, but,
Yeah.
I'm zooming now. Yes, we can
Perfect.
resolve that.
and then while we're looking at the dates, the architect facility assessment information is supposed to be dated 2023, right? That's
I'm sorry, where was that?
sorry, going back up to the bullets, the second bullet.
Yes,
All right, perfect.
that's the information. Let me check on that. Let me check on that.
No worries. Do you want me to table this item and for now? We can't table it. Yeah.
Stage 1? He's talking-
Oh, no, yeah.
No, you
He's
can't.
just
Yeah,
checking.
so
No, yeah.
so what we're checking, so
I meant for like 5 seconds, not like to give Mike a second to check it, not like, I know we're voting on it now. I just was seeing if I could move to another agenda item while Mike was checking. I didn't want to put him under pressure, to make sure that that was right.
Like, we're all
So
staring
that's,
at you.
that said 2018. That said 2018. We have the 2023. It's just not finalized yet. So
Is it in the
it's
packet?
no, it's not in the packet. But looking at this, so for the stage 1 application, the 2023 data will not be used, but as part of the stage 2.
So it should probably say 2018, right? Because that's what I saw attached, but
Is
I
it,
just
that's
would-
what I'm scrolling through right now.
No worries,
Is the
we'll figure it out.
2018 data in here?
I just want to make sure we don't get thrown out on a technicality. Is that what it's called? Or
So if I can't find that, what I'm going to do is strike that whole line.
um,
You could change it if you had to.
could we, as far as
You
what
could
they're
cha-
voting on right now?
You could change it if you had to, yeah. There's gonna be changes between stage 1 and
Mhm.
stage 2.
Oh, this is the stage 1 application, though. I just want to make sure this is accurate for what I'm signing in 2 minutes. That's all.
I mean, for dates,
Yeah. And again, Mike, you could just strike it, or you could just strike the 2023 if the Edward Rose, if that architect facility assessment is fine.
I would
just
strike the
date.
year. Yep.
Yeah, so why don't we just strike the date, and then we don't have to worry about
Yep.
it, it's in there, and then if it's the old one, that's fine, and then for the stage 2, as Frank said, it'll be the new
It'll
one.
be the new
Yeah,
one.
so we'll just strike the 2023,
Okay,
so we can approve it tonight.
sounds good to me. And then that other, I think we already talked about that other date.
Yep, so just to clarify, what we're approving today is the pack that was presented to the committee with 3 small changes. On the second bullet, reports that will be utilized, we're gonna strike through 2023 on that second bullet. And then on the 4th bullet, we're gonna change 2023 to 2022 to be accurate, and then the line right below that will be changing 13.SM to 13.5M. And then we will sign this, and Mr. Waterman will submit it by the deadline, so that we have a new stage 1 in and can move forward. Any other discussion on this one?
Let's do it.
Out of curiosity, is it submitted via email, mail?
Via email.
Via email, okay. And do they confirm they get it?
I believe that they do. It may be a few days.
Do you want it sent tomorrow, Jen? Are you feeling nervous?
No, I just wanna make
Well, the
sure,
town
like, we
manager has
know
to
they
sign
got
it
it.
first.
He has to
The
sign
town
it.
manager has to sign it first,
Okay.
and then it goes.
Okay.
I have an appointment with him tomorrow morning to,
Okay, perfect.
we've already discussed the logistics of securing all the necessary signatures.
Great. Perfect. Okay, hearing no other discussion, we'll move on from this item, and thank you so much, Mr. Waterman, everything that goes into putting this packet together. That is a lot of information and a lot of hard work, both on your behalf, your team's behalf, and then also, all the folks that worked with you, that we contracted. And so we really do appreciate that, and are very excited to hear, what the building committee's recommendation are. I'm intrigued to hear what that really talented group has to say, and we'll be looking forward to considering it. Okay, so that ends our new business correspondence. Oh, Lord, no, thank you. Okay, so we have a motion on the table, hearing no other discussion. We're good with discussion for that one. All those in favor of approving the RIDE Stage 1 application as presented with the slight amendments to that page, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay. Correspondence, we do not have any. Reports, none. And so, for the joy of our life, we have to go back into executive session. And so can I get a motion to,
So moved.
great,
Second.
thank you. So motion from Mr. Ridey, second from Mr. Case. All those in favor, right, you need to,
Okay.
okay. So we'll reconvene into open session, and we'll go back to routine items, which is item A, which is the seal of executive minutes for the meeting today. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Okay, motion from Mr. Case, second. Second from Ms. Hoskins. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And then we'll disclose that there were no votes taken in executive session, and then we'll skip back down to the very end of the agenda. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion for Mr. Case. You got it, John? Second for Ms. Hoskins. All those approve?
Aye.
Any abstain? Perfect. Motion carries. Thank you.